Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Love One Life. Coming up in this episode, we're joined by Rob and Ruby from the Idiopath. You do not want to miss this.
Who's the true lifesaver here then?
I don't like to sort of brag that I saved Rob's life, but I actually did.
It's all quite surreal for me, because I can't remember a thing about the day leading up to what happened to me, and then for several days later as well, with time in a coma.
So I sleep with earplugs in, an eye mask on, but we have tiled floors, and the sound of him hitting that floor is what woke me up.
And we've got a recording that we're going to play now, haven't you, of the moment where you called the ambulance services.
Ambulance services, patient breathing.
Our mission really is for, if people don't know what CPR is and want to know a bit more and might not have enough confidence to maybe talk to someone about learning, then get in touch and let us
CPR.
Learn CPR, yeah.
I'm Fred, this is Drea, and we're joined by Rob and Ruby from the Idiopath. Rob and Ruby, welcome to Love One Life. Tell us a little bit about your background for the viewers and the story we're going to get into today and the life-changing moments that you've had.
Yeah, so we're Rob and Ruby. The company is called the Idiopath. We basically went through a life-changing moment where we now use that experience to teach CPR, sharing that story and helping others build resilience for when they may need it.
Amazing.
Who's the true lifesaver here then?
I don't like to sort of brag that I saved Rob's life, but I actually did. So
You actually
I
did.
just like to use it to my advantage.
Milk it as much as you can.
Absolutely.
It has been, it's been life-changing for you guys, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember, I think it was on Instagram that you started sharing the story, and that's how I got to know about it. Ruby, you and I go way back as well. And when I heard what had happened, and then you shared some of the audio to what had happened, I well up immediately when I hear it. Do you feel the same?
Obviously, you don't get it as standard. The audio of your emergency services call. But the reason that I requested that information was because sort of in that moment, I was very alone. So I am the only person other than me and the call handler. We're the only two people that experienced that because Rob was not here. So I wanted to have it, give you the opportunity to listen if you want to listen, so that you can kind of be with me in that moment, because I can try and relive it and obviously describe to Rob what happened, but so that he could kind of be there with me. I have listened to it many times, and I think because we talk about this a lot, obviously, and we share that, it does make me emotional, but not as emotional as when I first heard it. I think you
Yeah, for me it's a little bit different because it's all quite surreal for me. So because I can't remember a thing about the day leading up to what happened to me, and then for several days later as well, with time in a coma. And for me it was really just it's a difficult listen, because you don't want to ever hear the person you love in panic mode and in that environment, and you can't replicate what that sounds like. It's a once in a lifetime noise or sound of coming out of that person that you hope to never hear, and you can hear that. And so listening to it is obviously, it's a lot to take in, because I wasn't present in that moment and obviously helpless really. And Ruby was the one there doing all the hard work and the graft in that moment.
For the viewers that don't know this story, both of you, if you wouldn't mind just taking us through the story, Ruby, if you could probably describe from your angle.
So Rob doesn't remember any of the day that happened previous to the day that it happened. So Rob always used to go and play football on a Monday night. He's played football multiple nights a week. I mean, it was a really hot day actually. I'm an early night to bed early, so I go to bed early. I think I texted you saying we've run out of print paper. Can you go and pick some up on your way home? It was a bit more explicit than that. Our little boy Albert had used up all the print paper. So my last message to him was, he's used this all up, sort it out, because I need some paper. I go to bed, and Rob just used to come home and get into bed when he got back. He used to time was it about?
About 9 o'clock when I finished.
So I'd be well gone by then. And the next thing that I remember is the sound of him hitting the floor. So I sleep with earplugs in, an eye mask on, but we have tiled floors. And the sound of him hitting that floor is what
Oh
woke
my
me
God.
up. I'm just sort of like, what's happened? Have you tripped over? Which was my initial thought, like, what are you doing on the floor? And at first I
Yeah.
actually thought he was
A few more
sleepwalking.
insults at that point.
Yeah, like, what are you doing down there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, "What? Are you okay?" And I thought he was sleepwalking, and then I thought perhaps he was in one of these, you know how people can, like, when they get sleepwalking and they're kind of, like, in the zone and they're not looking at you. Because I think the thing is when people think that you're gonna come across somebody who's potentially had a heart attack or cardiac arrest, they will have their eyes closed. They don't. So
Oh,
so Rob sort of staring into space, and then I think, right, recovery position, maybe he's had an allergic reaction to something. And then it's when I'm sort of trying to move him that I realise, hang on a second, I'd recently done a first aid at work course. It was about a month or so before. His chest isn't moving. He's not breathing. So I sleep with my phone in a different room of the house. So I run to go and get my phone, call 999 and start doing the chest compressions. And yeah, I was doing it for pretty much, 18 minutes until the emergency services arrived. Our son, Albert, was 8 at the time. And he miraculously stayed asleep for the whole thing. His bedroom door is 2 steps away from our bedroom door. So how he managed to stay asleep, I'm just very grateful whatever power forces kept him asleep that night.
yeah.
And the only time I left Rob was when they asked me to go and open the front door so that the emergency services could get in. So I literally ran. They said, you need to run to the front door, open it, leave it wide open, and then come back to him. I sort of heard them coming in the house, and you've been to our house, I think. I don't know
Yeah,
whether you remember the layout. It's
I do.
upside down.
Yeah.
I can hear them start to go up the stairs, and I'm like, no, the bedroom's not up the stairs. It's
Oh, of
down the
course, yeah.
hallway. And then they work on him for quite a while. I'm sort of in a state of shock. I don't really know what to do for quite a long period of time. Obviously, time becomes, you don't really pay attention to what's going on. I stood at Albert's bedroom door because I thought, what I don't want to do, I mean, there was probably 1 ambulance, 2 first responder cars. There were probably at least 6 people in our bedroom. And I just
Wow.
didn't want him opening the door and seeing what was going on. So at this point, we had no idea what had happened other than the fact that he'd stopped breathing, his heart had stopped. The paramedics sort of said to me, look, his heart has stopped. We need to get him to the hospital. This is 3 o'clock in the morning. I knock on my neighbour's door. I mean, she's retired. I think she's probably a bit deaf as well, so she probably didn't even hear me trying to bang on the door. And I rang one of my friends that I know gets up early in the morning, thinking so they come and look after Albert. But ultimately, I needed to wake him up. I had to actually move both of our cars because our drive is really steep and they couldn't get the stretcher down the drive. I moved both cars, manoeuvred that, and then they said, give yourself a minute and then come to the hospital. There's nothing you can do. Like, there's no point rushing. I wasn't able to go in an ambulance, me and Albert. I didn't
Right.
really want Albert to see Rob like that anyway. We went to Kingsmill Hospital. I had to go in and say to Albert, Daddy's not very well. We're going to have to go to the hospital. And that's probably the things that I remember the most, was getting changed and driving to the hospital with Albert. Because at that point, we didn't know what was going to happen. I'd called my family, your family, and they were fantastic. Albert was sort of taken off me as soon as I walked in the door, and he was
Amazing.
he was looked after by some nurses and given things to do. And they just didn't really know what had happened. And to be honest, it was the faces of the medical staff at the hospital that will stick with me, because you think these people deal with emergencies every day of their life, and there was young doctors who looked like visibly upset, like, we don't know why this
Wow.
happened. This shouldn't be happening to somebody so young. Because you were 30.
35.
I always say, I always say he was 34. I told everyone he was 34. I told them, like, on the phone he was 34.
Wrong age.
But he was 35. Still young.
Yeah,
Um,
very young.
it was a crazy experience. And I mean, it didn't sort of stop there. It was quite a long time. You were in intensive care, and you still really don't have any. You only sort of started to get your memory
About
back
a week later.
Yeah, but even then, you had short-term memory loss. So I'd go to the hospital every day, and I'd have to re-explain that his
Oh,
heart
wow.
had a cardiac arrest. And I was thinking, it's going to be like on 51st dates every day. I'm going to have to tell you. But I was thinking, I said to the doctor, how long is this going to go on for? And they said, well, hopefully in 6 months' time he'll be fine. I was thinking 6 months is really long for me to every day. And luckily it wasn't that long. But for
Yeah.
me to every day to explain to you, what had happened. And we used to test him, and it was when was it the Euros was
Euros were
on?
on,
So
yeah.
one of his friends went to visit him and was testing him about the match the night before. And he was like, yeah, I know that happened. And then he was getting it all wrong.
Winding me up,
lie.
really.
But yeah, ultimately the outcome was that Rob had a cardiac arrest, an idiopathic cardiac arrest, which is where the name Idiopath comes from, which means no known cause. So I guess we'll never know.
And we've got a recording that we're going to play now, haven't you, of the moment where you called the ambulance services in your situation. Do you want to describe it before we listen to it, just about that moment for you, Ruby, in particular?
I think it's very surreal for me just to listen back, because I know that's me talking, but it's the kind of thing that you would hear in like a television program, and you think people are never going to sort of react the way that they do. And unfortunately, you never know how you are going to react to when something pretty horrific happens.
Yeah, well, let's play it.
Ambulance services, patient breathing.
Pardon? No.
Is there somebody there with you?
My son, maybe 8, he's asleep.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. All right, just continue with the compressions. I'm here with you. What's your name?
Ruby.
Rob, how do you feel listening back to that?
It's a tough listen, because obviously you don't ever want to hear the person you love with that panic in their voice. I've never heard Ruby talk like that before. That concern, really, that real life worry that you just can't act or you can't replicate, and it's a real emotion in that moment. So it's obviously is difficult to listen even to just that short amount of time of the call.
I mean, fast forward, how long's it been now? Has it been about a year, 2 years now?
Yeah, it was June 2024 was when they had the cardiac arrests. We're just over 18 months on from that now. So yeah.
If I'm not wrong as well, didn't you have something happen just after that as well?
Yes. Well, as you can sort of tell anyway, but I recovered physically really, really well and quickly. Was back at work in sort of 6 to 8 weeks, roughly, which is again quite unheard of for something so significant and serious.
And probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
But I felt fine. Honestly, I felt sort of okay to do it, and lots of people around me making sure I was doing the right thing. Ultimately, I felt great, and I had to recover from surgery, so I had an ICD fitted to the side of my body, which is basically there as a preventative measure. If my heart was to ever stop again, it provides a shock to restart. So that was really the only pain I had, was really from the surgery that I'd had. So as I got discharged, and that was one of the reasons why I was ridden for a bit, just recovering from that. But overall, recovered exceptionally well, to the point where I was back working. I was being normal Rob again, as best as that could look. And the next step in that recovery was I need to go and play football again. I need to sort of build myself up and have enough confidence to go and do that again, because it meant a hell of a lot to me to sort of show that you can go through that but come back the other side. And there's professional sports people that have done it, so I knew that it was possible. And within a few months went to cardiology and said, is there any chance I can up the ante a bit, up my exercising a little bit, and see if I can get back on the football pitch? And they said, of course, take it steady, but they don't see a reason why not, based on how I was recovering so well. So I did exactly that. Went to play on a Tuesday night this time. Another one of the groups that I was regularly playing with. Went to play, had an amazing game, like probably one of the best games of football I've played. And came home just buzzing, really. It was only in the village, so I walked there, walked back, and buzzing at the fact that I was able to do it, and I felt fantastic, and I didn't have any issues playing, all of that. I then come home to sort myself out, go to bed, and with that beaming smile on my face, what I then didn't actually realise at the time, but then in the middle of that night, my heart actually stopped during that in that night. So the device had to provide a shock because the heart had stopped, jolting me out of bed, like as if I'd had a nightmare.
Yeah, it was like you'd
and,
had a
and
nightmare.
that's
and woken
genuinely
up.
what I thought it was at the time. There's no textbook to say what it feels like to be shocked by a device, so I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought it was unusual, and I just jolted up. Ruby's there checking if I'm okay, and probably even went back to sleep. Can't even remember. I then just got on with my day that morning. Had breakfast, got the bus to work because I couldn't drive because of what had happened. Arrived at work, started to feel a little bit uneasy, and sort of I think I ought to maybe ring the doctors because I've played football. Just want to make sure there's nothing untoward. I've got a little bit of discomfort in my body, but it could have just been aches and pains from having not played for 7 months or whatever it was. And then, put the phone down to the doctors. And then the next call I had was from the hospital saying, did you realise your device was activated at 3 o'clock in the morning? And could you come in now, please? Because that shouldn't have happened. So that was really considering how much of the first occasion I can't remember at all, the second time I can remember everything. So I remember all about the day before, what I ate, what I drank, what I did that day. I remember playing football, I remember coming home, I remember going to bed, I remember everything. And then also remember what it was like to have to admit myself to hospital, which was just weird, just such a weird feeling. I had to make my own way to the hospital and admit myself for what the doctors had said would just be a short checkup and overnight stay maximum, turned into about a week of more poking and prodding to kind of figure it all out again, because they had no data the first time round and no sign that, but it really shouldn't have happened a second time either, but they had a bit more data because of the device.
He basically has an adult baby monitor.
Yeah, got
all of the information from the device gets uploaded to this box that we have in our bedroom, and then he has to send the data from the box to
every
the hospital.
week or so. Yeah. So they had a bit more knowledge of what actually happened to my heart rate. So they've showed me this graph basically and said, look, this is what happened. You'd come home, so your heart rate had gone obviously from playing football to your standard exercisey heart rate. It had recovered and to your standard sort of 60 to 70 beats per minute in resting heart rate. But then it went from that to about 400 beats per minute and then off. So it basically detected that real spike in heart rate when I wasn't actually doing anything.
No.
I was asleep.
Yeah.
They obviously wanted to look into why that could have been and what could have caused that. So I was 24-hour monitoring of my heart with ECGs, just to again try and figure out whether there was any connections or anything that they'd just missed the first time. So yeah, that was a much longer trip in hospital, but I remember it all. Whereas the first time I only remember the bit where I was in a ward. I don't remember any of the intensive care and the coma. Second time I remember the nurses coming in with the blood testing and the tubes and the beeping and everything. It's sort of that harsh reminder of what hospital life can be like. Arguably hit me harder that second episode than the first, personally. Maybe not so much for Ruby because she didn't have to do CPR the second
around.
Yeah. It was sort of, a bit of a realisation for me as to this was pretty serious again. And and that perhaps life couldn't quite be the same after that time, really. I think from a mental perspective, I'd recovered so well physically, but I think the mental side hadn't really recovered even at that point, because I had fears of the device going off as I was walking down the street up until this point, and sort of just living with something that you don't know why you've had it happen. To then it then actually happens, and then you're like, well, what's life now? Because I've got the device for security and peace of mind, but shouldn't have actually had to go off. So, having gone through that the second time, it's probably when it hit me a little bit harder, I'd say.
Yeah,
that's an incredible set of events, and it's mind blowing to think not only, I suppose, for you, thank God for modern science and the intervention they did to do the second one, but just the sheer emotion of all the journey for both of you going through. And the first moment for you, Ruby, 18 minutes, you said, like CPR of keeping Rob alive when he was effectively dead at that point. Or I suppose clinically, I don't know I don't know the medical terms for it. You might be able to help us out with that.
He basically was. So we have the whole report of the ambulance, and
when they're being admitted,
he was the same category as somebody as if he was a dead body. So
wow,
incredible.
You talked about what is life now,
yeah,
and so that's a really good point. What is life like now for you guys? I mean, you started the Idiopathic company, you do CPR training. I assume you're looking to get a message out there. You've maybe got a new purpose in life. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was that recovery from episode 2, call it, in hospital, and sort of the recovery from that. I still went back to old Rob and work wise, and obviously had an obligation to do that, both sides. But so did that. But I think the seeds were starting to be thought about in what is the future going to look like for us, and what do we want to be telling others and explaining to others about what happened and that sort of thing. And sadly, the survival rates from cardiac arrest are so low that not many people get the opportunity to talk about it afterwards. Really? It's about 1 in 10, particularly if someone has a cardiac arrest at home.
Out of hospital.
About 1 in 10 survive. And those that do typically will have some sort of long-lasting effects, whether it be brain or other sort of other limitations thereafter.
And for every minute that you don't get CPR, so it's 1 in 10 the survival rate out of hospital cardiac arrests. But for every minute that you don't receive CPR, your survival rate goes down another 10%. So if you think that a person's is lying on a floor, already they've got 1 in 10 chance of surviving. If they've been left for 5 minutes, it's another 50% off that.
Yeah. So I figured quite quickly how I'm extremely fortunate to be, also privileged even, to be in the position to talk about it and to raise awareness of what happened and what it is. And there's this association with it being a heart attack versus a cardiac arrest. And
a lot of people don't understand the difference.
We had to understand that a lot. You sort of candidates of people that have heart attacks wasn't in that category, nor was I for cardiac arrest either. But there's perceptions of why someone would have a heart attack potentially, with whether it's health
or age.
So we really wanted to get a message out there that was awareness of what it actually is, what to do if that ever happens. Hopefully it never does, but if it ever, if anyone's ever in that position where someone collapses or needs urgent medical attention because their heart stopped, we want to use our experience to help others to basically do something in that moment, and hopefully give the person the best chance of survival as possible. And obviously there's a hell of a lot to be said about the resilience that people are building for anything that they overcome, and we've done a lot of work there as well to just help others, really, quite simply, to anything that people are up against, maybe not so serious as what we went through, but in everyday life people can use some of the tools and techniques we've had to develop to show others that you can come back from X, Y, Z.
One of the main things is that we've obviously had a really life-changing experience that has shaped our future. And yes, we are using it, I suppose, to our advantage, but also, like, I feel like this has happened to us so that we can speak out about it. And with this sort of resilience-based stuff, we want to prove that you don't have to wait for something like this to happen in order to change your path. There doesn't need to be a reason. Like, our catalyst when we talk about it is that this has happened, but you don't have to wait for that catalyst to make a change. There doesn't have to be an excuse behind it. You can just change your mind or change your path or do something different.
I think that's really important. And I'm going to say, if anyone's listening at this point and thinking, wow, this is really powerful stuff and a really powerful message, please do share and send this to somebody you know that you think will benefit, because not only the journey of Ruby and Rob going through the arrest, but also the importance of CPR knowledge and what to do in this situation, which I'll be honest, I don't actually have. And we probably need to get ourselves on a CPR course.
Yeah, I mean, I have had it in the past. Obviously, I used to be a childminder, so it's part of what we do is, you know, you have to have that training. Even when your message first came up and your journey and your experience first came up, and I saw that you were doing the CPR training, I was thinking, we need to get the family booked on that. Like, that would be like a really valuable thing for everybody, because you said as well, Ruby, that you'd only had it a month before. I mean, that must have been so impactful for you to have had it so fresh in your mind.
And the thing is that everything sort of happens, it aligns a way that it needs to happen. And it was offered to me, and I said, oh, I'm going to do that. It means I get a day not working in the office. But if I hadn't have done that, and this is the thing, and what is being pushed now is that actually children start to learn from age 4 to 6. It is in the national curriculum, but it doesn't get, even though it is in the curriculum, they don't get that education as they should be getting it. And also it should be an annual refresher. This isn't a skill that we believe you can learn 10 years ago and then just be able to do it. You can, like, don't get me wrong, if I'd have had no experience, I would have been able to do it in that moment, because obviously the emergency services tell you what to do. However, it's having the awareness of what the situation is as well. So when they're saying teaching children from 4 to 6, it's not necessarily giving someone CPR, but it's what's wrong with this person? Who do I need to call? Like, are they not breathing? And it's those steps that actually are the most important. The most important step of CPR is calling the emergency services, because there's this misconception that you can bring someone back by giving them CPR.
Right.
And unfortunately, in most of the cases, that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen how it happens in the films, where you pump a few times on the chest and they're like, oh, suddenly revived. That doesn't
Sometimes they wake up 5 minutes after everyone's walked off and left them giving up, and then they just wake up.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't happen like that. And actually CPR is just giving you time before medical emergency service arrive. That's all it is doing.
It's such an incredible story, and such an awakening story, I'm sure, for so many people. So you talk about the path and helping people to say you don't need to wait for this event. And I think Rob's story is such a great one to say, things can happen in your life just out of the blue that aren't on the traditional path of do this and this will happen. So what is it that you're, as well as your sort of CPI training, the importance of it and the awareness, what's your life now? Because I guess life is, you don't take life for granted anymore, I'm imagining. And that's what this show is about, as well as about enjoying the life that you have and loving the one life that you've got and making the best of every day and looking forward to living with intention and not just accepting a life you don't like. So if you can share with our viewers real life experience with having to go through major events, what is that like for you two now?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, obviously it has put quality of life into that spotlight, and you treasure everything that happens thereafter. I mean, like I say, I have about a week or so of my life that I don't remember, and I'm okay with that because of what's then followed on since. But my mission, say, in recovery was to try just to have a new version of normal, build up that confidence, happiness, and everything that life's about. There was a new way of that being evident and coming back to a different way of it, really. So I just had to learn what that kind of new way was. Like I say, whether it was going back to work too quickly, whether it was trying to go and rush to play football too quickly. Yeah, I had to learn from those things to really shape what life looks like today compared to what life looked like in those first sort of 6 months. A lot of people said time would be a good healer, and it certainly has been, really. We couldn't have done what we're doing today even probably 6 months ago, and we weren't arguably ready to be so sort of open and talking about it and sharing that story. But quite honestly, I mean, most people around me are saying that I look happier and I am happier than I was before, because I've got a new purpose in life.
He's a different person. He's a total, like, not in a bad way, but I think in the first like networking event that you went to, like as the Idiopath, and I picked him up because this was still when he wasn't able to drive yet, and I picked him up and he got in the car and I was just absolutely buzzing. And the thing is I hope you don't mind me talking for you, but you've always been in a traditional job role and you've always been very old fashioned, and like I have always pretty much worked for myself. And I've always gone off and done stuff, and I think you've always sort of seen that as Ruby has a hobby that makes her money. And because you've always had this very you're an accountant, so it's a traditional job. And I think for you to open your eyes that there's so much more available. There's so much more out there. And just to see the change in you, like I always said my husband was a quiet guy. I don't know who he is now, but he's definitely not a quiet guy anymore.
I totally get you. I hear, because even what I knew of you, Rob, like, so back in the day when I was more heavily connected with Ruby, you were kind of like quiet, and I didn't know much about you or anything. And then I go on LinkedIn and this guy is just like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be doing this. And I'm like, he's different than I thought he was. What a different impression I'm getting. And it obviously all makes sense now, you know, that it is like a bit of a rebirth, really, isn't it?
And there is a bit of sort of science behind the fact that it is almost a bit like that. And
We have had a second
yeah,
chat.
it is literally like Rob Part 2 or whatever it may be, 2.0 or whatever the actual way of thinking of it is. But I still would consider myself quite a naturally introvert person. It was more so I was quite private, kept myself to myself and just plodded along with life without too many people knowing too much about me. I think because something so significant happened, I couldn't do that anymore anyway. I never wanted to be center of attention, and then all of a sudden I was the only attention for that period of time. And whilst I wouldn't have wanted that, it has sort of shaped how people are looking at me more now than they used to before, and do see that difference because I'm now being vocal about something that if I'd had any medical thing in the past, I would have just kept it to myself. Probably I wouldn't have really shared it. But I think this was so significant. And also I felt, as I say, privileged to be able to talk about it. So it was just a new passion and thing to restart what life meant, really.
I think it sounds like a bit of a calling for you guys, for you both. I know, Ruby, you were right into the gym beforehand, but I feel like you might have cranked it up even more since that. Is there this like super strong resilience thing? Is it a place for you to go and to like feel your power and to gain that and keep on gaining that strength? What does going to the gym like that bring you, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things when I went and I did my training to be a personal trainer was that you don't get many choices in life. The only thing that we can control in our life is how we move our body, what we consume. Everything else is luck. And when I say what we consume, I don't necessarily mean just food or drink, like substances, technology, what we're consuming, what we're reading, like everything like that. And those are the only things that we control. And whether there's other things that come along the way, like Rob's cardiac arrest, that are things we can't control, we may as well control what we can, get strong where we can, consume things that make us happy, whether it's on the television, on a book, like going outside, all these things that aren't necessarily diet related, which is part of it as well. But it's also an outlet. It's stress relief. I love training and I always will love training. I mean, Rob was in a coma and I literally went to the gym. Because I remember Mum even said to me, you need to go to the gym. And I was like, yeah, I do. I felt bad, but you have to have that time for yourself. And this is why fitness and resilience and doing all these things, having that, filling your cup first before you fill anybody else's is so important so that you can help other people as well as yourself. But self comes first.
Yeah, I know, Rob, when you look at it and you think the first time you had the heart stop and you tried to get straight back on the bike of life that you were on, you tried to be the old Rob, and you might argue if there was any kind of thing in the universe influencing the situation, he might have said, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'll have another pop.
Yeah, absolutely.
the Rob 2.0 came after 2.0 stops.
Yeah, I think
your heart.
Yeah, there's that. I don't know whether it was a degree of even invincibility or I'm still here. I can still feel things. I can still do things, and I think I just went back into those habits, good and bad, because I wanted to get back exercising and I wanted to play football again. So there was obviously good parts of that, but there's also the habits that we all do that aren't so good that they came back in, quickly as well.
So you said it exactly there. You said about getting back, and I think the point was there was no getting back. When something like this happens, you don't get back to who you were before. You move forward in a new direction, and it was that you needed to go in that new direction rather than trying to be somebody that you were prior.
I know for myself, and I think of it like you said earlier, Ruby, about people making sure they don't wait for these kind of life events to change their path. Rob, it sounds like you're on a very different path than people would say.
Yeah.
The Rob of old versus the Rob of today is a happier, more fulfilled, and more sort of
Purposeful individual.
More purposeful individual. Thank you. And I suppose the key message to the listener in this, for me, is very much people need to do something with their life today and not wait and live life the way you were sort of raised or trained to. But if you're not fulfilled and you're not being your best version of yourself,
don't wait for your heart to stop for no reason.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just do it.
Do it.
Don't wait
Absolutely.
to be pushed.
Yeah. I totally agree. What message do you want to give out to everyone now, and where can they find you, and what can you help them with that might be helpful for their life going forward?
I mean, our mission really is for, if people don't know what CPR is and want to know a bit more and might not have enough confidence to maybe talk to someone about learning, then get in touch and
learn CPR.
Learn CPR, yeah. We don't believe there's anybody out there in the world that shouldn't know it. Again, whether you're at school age 4+, or whether you're elderly or any age, is the sort of target audience for CPR training is literally everybody. And learning that life-saving skill. Hopefully, it's a skill you learn that you never need to execute, but you learn a lot at school that you don't execute later in life, and we just want it to be a life skill that's learned that is something that is everyone can have. So that's the key message. So anyone who wants to give themselves a bit more confidence to be able to act in that moment, we want to be encouraging those to give CPR a go. And motto really with the whole of the process is doing something's better than doing nothing. So understanding the process and being able to do something, whether it's just calling 999, whether it's shouting for help, whether it's doing chest compressions, whether it's going to fetch a defibrillator, all the different steps of the chain of survival. If they're more confident to do that after speaking with us, then we've done what we wanted to do really in this sort of mission. And by sharing and being open about our experience, we hope it does help others in times when they might need.
Just when they're in emergency, which is why we do all the resilience-based stuff to encourage people to jump before they're pushed, and to build goals and habits that are sustainable. That's, again, doing something is better than doing nothing is the theme that runs through everything that we do, the CPR training, resilience building.
So social media, we're at the Idiopath on Instagram, Facebook, and then our website's theidiopath.com. Lots of information on there. There's some free downloads to learn CPR. Obviously, that's an initial step-by-step guide of how to do it. You can put it in your workplace. So as a little poster reminder, there's no real substitute, in our opinion, for actually giving it a go and practicing it. However,
hopefully that's
a starting. That's a starting point for some people to understand it. You'll learn a bit more about us and why we do what we do, and then it's obviously trying to share this message far and wide with the local communities and schools and employers, and really share our story and that lived experience to make CPR training have that more impact and actually people go and actually do something about it.
Wow, what an incredible set of events and a journey you've both been on, Rob and Ruby. Thank you so much for joining us. I think the message is wonderful. You're welcome. And we certainly hope that more people reach out, to get this sort of training that people need to be able to save a life, because that's what it is, isn't it, Ruby? In your case, it's the ability to save a life. And I think that's really important for everybody, but also to reflect how life-changing it is when a moment like this happens.
And hopefully people don't have to go through anything like you've went through, but they can take the message that it has been so life-changing, and that you truly look at your life differently now, and that you want to grasp it by both hands. And hopefully people don't have to go through that, and they can just hack straight to the having a better time.
Drama.
Yeah.
Love the one life you've got.
Love the one life.
And enjoy it as soon as you can.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for being here with us. And please do share this podcast. Please do share this message, and please do go and check Rob and Ruby out at the Idiopath online. Yeah?
Yeah. And don't forget to subscribe, because the more the merrier. We're putting out shows twice a month, and this is the kind of fantastic life-changing stories that really can help you live your best life. So I'm Fred, this is Dre, we're Love One Life.
Bye.